Dave Perry of ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com here. In this video I want to show you how you can use the custom shows feature of PowerPoint to potentially save yourself a lot of time and effort. What a custom show is it allows you to create multiple slideshows within one PowerPoint file. And it's most useful for presenters who have to, in their role, present the same or maybe similar information to different groups or different levels. So maybe there's an executive version of the presentation, and then there's a version of the presentation for supervisors, maybe, and then staff. So it's the same or similar information that has to be presented to different levels. And often it's different levels of detail that you have to present for each of these audiences. Typically what most presenters will end up doing is creating 3 files, let's say one for each of those groups, and then it's a lot of effort to maintain them. Well, what custom shows does is it allows you to create these different versions of the slideshow within one file, so you don't have multiple files that you end up having to update and remember to update every time you make a change to one particular piece of information. And what a custom show does is allows you to select which slides you want to show to each of those groups and in what order. And then when you run the show, it selects the latest version of that slide from that file, because it's only one file, and then it runs the show in the order that you specified for that group. So it can really save you a lot of time, and it also is a real value because when you print a presentation or you save it as a PDF, you can select that custom show and it will then order the slides in that exact order that you need to. So I want to show you how it's done, and I'm going to do that through an example here of a project update. So I'm going to get out of slideshow mode here and show you what our project update slides here. We have a number of slides. Some of the slides are going to apply to 2 groups and one will apply to 1 group. So the 2 examples we're going to use is where a presentation where you have to make it to the steering committee, and second presentation to the project team. So the steering committee wants really summary and overview type information, whereas the team needs the detail information. So some of the slides that we're going to use. So the project scope, this is a slide that is probably going to only apply to the steering committee because the team knows what the scope is. They're very well versed in it. But the steering committee, because they're overviewing so many projects, they're going to need a sort of a review of what the scope is of this project. And then we talk about certain areas. So the schedule, we have an overview slide and a detailed task review. Budget, summary, and detailed spending details. So again, the summary is going to be appropriate for the steering committee, the details for the project team. Resourcing, again, review and detailed assignments. Risk management is going to need to be used for both of the presentations. The scope change is only going to be through the steering committee. Once they've approved scope changes, then that's what goes into the team, and then the wrap-up is for both. So we can see how some of the slides apply to one, some of the slides apply to both. So we want to set up 2 custom shows. The way we access custom shows is on the slideshow ribbon under custom slideshow. And we drop that down. Right now there aren't any listed, but we see that we can access the ability to set up and edit custom shows through this particular item. And there are none listed because we haven't set any up. So we're going to click on the new button and we're going to set up the first slideshow. It's always good to name the slideshow, and generally it's going to be either the group you're doing it to or something that identifies what the purpose of this particular slideshow is. So I'm going to title this one Steering Committee, and I'm going to select the shows, the slides that are going to be appropriate. So I'll select the title slide, the scope because I need them to see that overview, the overview of the schedule but not the detailed task review, the budget summary but not the detailed spending details, the overview of resourcing, risk management, the scope change requests we're asking them to approve, and our wrap-up slide. So I've selected the ones I want, and I'll click on the Add button, and it creates a new show with just those slides. And if I need to reorder anything, I can simply select a slide and then move it up or down using these arrows as appropriate. So it's not only that you can select the slides, but you can choose what order they're presented in. So I'll click OK. I've set up my first one. Now I'm going to set up my second one, so I'll click on New again. And this one's going to be for the project team. And we're going to select the title slide. We don't need the scope or the overview, but we're going to do the task review, the spending details, the resourcing assignments, the risk management, because that applies to both, the approved scope changes once we've met with the steering committee, and our wrap-up of next steps. Add those, and so our project team now is only going to see these slides. And we'll click OK. If you ever want to go and edit which slides are in a show, you can simply select the show and click on the Edit button. So then it allows us to, again, add more slides, remove a slide by selecting it and clicking on the X, or move the slide up or down. So when we want to run the show, we could run it from this dialog box, but it's usually easier to run it from the menu. So I'll click on Close. Now that we've defined these slideshows, under the Custom Slideshow button on the Slideshow ribbon, we now see our two slideshows listed. So for example, if we wanted to select the steering committee, we click on that, and we start to see the slides just applicable to the steering committee. The overviews, the summaries, a review of the resourcing, risk management, what we're asking them, scope changes, and then the wrap-up. And then it's done. So the slideshow that we've presented contained only those slides that we defined were going to be applicable to the steering committee. So not only can you show it in a slideshow mode, but also when we go to print a presentation, it says print all slides, but when we drop this down, we now see that we have our custom shows, the steering committee and the project team. So we can decide, let's say the steering committee, we want to create a paper version or a PDF version. If we're printing to a PDF, we can select the steering committee, and you'll notice it's just the 8 slides that are in that custom show. So it allows us to print the custom show. If we use the save as a PDF, again, we can choose, instead of printing to save all the slides, we can choose to save just the custom show. So when we click on Save a Copy and we select our PDF, select More Options, here's where we can get to the options, and we can select, instead of all, we can select Custom Show and then select one of the custom shows we have defined. So we could say our steering committee, and it will then create as a PDF just those slides. So using a custom show, defining custom shows within a file allows you to create those different versions of the presentation for each of the groups. But it allows you to have consistent slides because you only have one source for each one of those slides. You don't have to remember to update it in multiple locations. It can save you a lot of time if you have to present the same or similar information to different groups.